Hello and welcome back to another video on the Football Zone and to another weekend review, reviewing all of this week's Premier League and Championship action. Starting off in the Premier League, Leicester 0, Chelsea 3, and what a performance this was from Chelsea. Goals from Rudiger, Kante and Pulisic sealed the win, and Chelsea were absolutely dominant here, and it was showed in the scoreline. At the moment, there's no denying it, they look like the team to beat. Really great win for them. As for Leicester, they were really poor here. Hopefully they can pick up soon. Before moving on, Wolves 1, West Ham 0 was a score at Molineux. Raul Jimenez with the only goal of the game in the 58th minute sealed the win for Wolves. And what a really impressive win for Wolves this was, because obviously the last game before the break, West Ham beat Liverpool, and Wolves did stop that, and it continues the rather solid run they've been on recently. So that's a big win for them. As for West Ham, they'll be disappointed, but at the end of the day, it's still not the end of the world. They can keep pushing. And it was only 1-0, just one defeat. But moving on, Watford 4, Manchester United 1. You heard that right, was the score at Vicarage Road, and what spelled the end for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's time as manager. Sarr missed a penalty in the 11th minute before goals from King, Sarr again, and Donny van der Beek pulled one back before two stoppage time goals from Pedro and Dennis sealed the win for Watford. And Watford were just dominant here, brilliant stuff. Claudio Ranieri, what a man. But United just dreadful, and I hate to say it because he's a lovely bloke, but after this Ollie just simply had to go. But moving on, Norwich 2, Southampton 1 was the score at Carrow Road. Che Adams gave Dean Smith the worst possible start as Norwich manager in the 4th minute when he put Saints ahead before goals from Pukki and Hanley sealed the win for Norwich. And what a great result this was for them. They played really well here, and I would say probably just about did deserve the win. They can be very happy with that. For Southampton, no, it is a disappointing result, but Norwich 2 wins on the trot. Moving on, Newcastle 3, Brentford 3 was the score at St James's Park. Lascelles in the 10th minute gave Newcastle a lead before goals from Tony and Henry put Brentford 2-1 up, but Joe Linton equalised, and then Lascelles' own goal put Brentford ahead again before St Maximin, that man again, 75th minute, equalled the scoreline, and it finished that way. I think Newcastle were a bit disappointed, but with Eddie Howe testing positive and everything like that, it's a respectable result. But moving on, it finished Burnley 3, Crystal Palace 3 at Turf Moor. Another 3-3. Goals from Benteke with a brace and Gerhi for Palace, and then goals from Wood and Cornet for Burnley. I think Burnley will be relatively happy with this. Crystal Palace should be on a great run. I know they can get at the moment, so good to stop that. And then as for Burnley, that's 5 points from the last 3 now, so they're definitely progressing rather nicely. But moving on, Aston Villa 2, Brighton 0 was the score at Villa Park. 2 goals for Steven Gerrard's men in the second half, with goals from Watkins and Mings. Villa will be very happy with that. A dream start for Gerrard, really. They probably did deserve the win, and obviously it's a big one for them after the bad run they've been on recently. But for Brighton, it is disappointing and it's concerning because it continues their poor form they had before the break. But moving on, Liverpool 4, Arsenal 0 was the score at Anfield, and this was a dominant performance by Liverpool. Mane was the only goal of the game in the first half in the 39th minute before goals from Jota, Salah and Minamino in the second half won the game for Liverpool. And this was Liverpool at their best here. Just brilliant stuff to watch. Arsenal, without Ramsdale, the score could have been even more. It does show while Arsenal have been a lot better recently, they still do have a lot of work to do, as seen here. But moving on, Manchester City 3, Everton 0 was the score at the Etihad. Goals from Sterling, Rodri and Silva sealed the win. And Man City, they were excellent here, just showing Liverpool and Chelsea they're every bit as good as them. And for Everton, the bad run really continues now, and it is starting to become a bit of a concern. They're still 11th in the league, but the results, especially as of late, have been really poor, so I want them up to turn fortunes very soon. But moving on, Tottenham 2, Leeds 1 was the score at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Dan James gave leads the lead in the 44th minute, and it's deserved before second half goals from Højbjerg and Reguilon sealed the win. And really solid result for Tottenham. It wasn't the best performance you've ever seen, but it continues an unbeaten start under Antonio Conte. But yeah, our performances obviously need a lot of work, and obviously they haven't come up against one of the top teams yet, so let's see where we go after that. But moving on then to the Championship, and on Friday night it finished QPR 2, Luton 0. Goals from Chris Willock and Charlie Austin sealed the win for QPR, and that's a big win for QPR, and means they're now in the playoff places, which is solid for them. For Luton, it's 2 losses on the trot now, but QPR 4 unbeaten, 2 wins, 2 draws. Hopefully they're starting to find a relative amount of consistency now. And we'll continue moving up the table, because that squad's good enough to do it. But as for Luton, I don't know if they'll be expecting anything out of it, but still disappointing. But moving on, Sheffield United 0, Coventry 0 was the score at Bramall Lane. Really not too much to talk about in this game. Sheffield United probably had the slightly better of the game, but either way, in general, it's just quite a close game, not much to match between the two sides. And Sheffield United, I think they probably would have wanted more from it. They really do need to start moving up the table now, but it just doesn't seem like happening. And then you've got Coventry in 5th. Not a dreadful result for them, but maybe they could have gone and targeted that one. So I think both teams will leave relatively happy, but not over the moon. But moving on, Swansea 1, Blackpool 1 was the score at the Liberty Stadium. Joel Pirou with a goal in the 35th minute before Anderson in the 86th minute equalised for Blackpool, and I think Blackpool will be very happy with that. That's a very solid point for them away from home. For Swansea, I think they would have seen this as a winnable game, but it didn't quite work out in the end. It's not a dreadful result for them, not a dreadful result for either side, considering how well Blackpool have been going recently. On the whole, I think both teams will be relatively content. But moving on, Preston 1, Cardiff 2 was the score at Deepdale. Sean Maguire gave Preston the lead in the 2nd minute before second half goals from McGuinness and Collins gave Cardiff the win in their first game back in their first game with Steve Morrison in charge, they'll be very happy with that, and it just continues to slow rise out of the table. But for Preston, I think they would have been hoping to get something out of this one, so they probably will be slightly disappointed. But it's just about moving on to Tuesday going now for both those sides. Stoke 2, Peterborough 0 was the score at Bet365 Stadium. Vrancic and Campbell with the goals. Great to see Tyrese Campbell back on the score sheet. Sam Surridge also did get sent off for Stoke in the 91st minute, but Tyrese Campbell back on the score sheet is exactly what Stoke would have wanted to see, and I think it's what everyone wants to see after everything he's been through. And for Stoke, it's a solid win, still in 4th place, still going well. For Peterborough though, it's disappointing, but I doubt they expect anything from this really. Now moving on, Reading 1, Nottingham Forest 1 was the score at the Select Car Leasing Stadium. Zinkernagel gave Forest an early in the 4th minute before Scott Dan levelled for Reading with half an hour to go. And in the end, neither team can find a breakthrough. It's quite an even game really. Not much separated two sides. I would say draw is probably the fair result. And both teams will leave the stadium relatively content. Forest still mid-table in 13th. And Reading only 2 points clear of the relegation zone, but I do think with the quality of that squad they'll be fine. But moving on now, it finished Middlesbrough 1, Millwall 1 in Chris Wilder's first game in charge of Middlesbrough. Crooks with a goal in the 15th minute for Middlesbrough put them ahead before a Solban own goal equalised for Millwall. And in the end, I would say a draw was probably a bit harsh on Middlesbrough. They were probably the better side, but just couldn't find a breakthrough. It's a solid point for Millwall. They're still 9th, still within touching distance of the playoffs. Middlesbrough in 14th, just slightly further back. Moving on then to a big win for Hull, and I think that's 2 wins in the trot now for them, so they're definitely starting to improve. This time it's over Birmingham. George Honeyman and Malik Wilkes with the goals. Gardner got sent off for Birmingham in the first half as well. A really bad day for Birmingham. But for Hull, they're definitely starting to pick up now, and they are just getting ever so closer to pulling away from the relegation battle. Still level on points, but if they keep up this form, they could be out of it in no time. But moving on, Huddersfield 1, West Brom 0 was the score at the John Smith Stadium. Huddersfield took the lead in the 6th minute, and they never looked back. Livermore was also sent off in the 78th minute to round off a dismal day for West Brom. And for West Brom, now they're 8 points behind Bournemouth and Fulham. So I think don't want to preempt things this early in the season, but it's looking like quite a chase to catch those two up with how they're performing at the moment. Well, obviously Bournemouth side this week, Really disappointing result for them. Speaking of one of those two teams, Fulham 4, Barnsley 1 was the score at Craven Cottage. Mitrovic, that man again, and Carvalho with the goals in the first half. Cabana and Wilson in the second half for Fulham, and then Barnsley also had one in the second half. But yeah, this was dominant from Fulham. They were absolutely dominant here, and yeah, they've taken over the lead again. And recently they are starting to look unstoppable. As for Barnsley, I knew the new manager wasn't there, but not really the new manager bounce they would have hoped for, to be honest, even if he wasn't there. But moving on, Bristol City 1, Blackburn 1 was the score at Ashton Gate. O'Dowd with a goal in the 34th minute put Bristol in front before Ben Brereton Diaz, that man again, in the 75th minute, equalised things up. And yeah, I think both teams will be relatively content with a point. Maybe Bristol City was slightly the better team and could have gone on to win it, but it wasn't to be. Blackburn's still just outside the pass within touching distance, so not bad for them. Bristol City in 18th, it stops the rot of kind of losing though. Derby 3, Bournemouth 2 was the score at Pride Park, and one of the surprise results of the week. Knight put Derby in front in the 13th minute before goals from Anthony and Solanke gave Bournemouth a 2-1 lead, but two goals from Tom Lawrence in the space of 7 minutes gave Derby the lead, and they never looked back. And what a great result that was for Derby. Does start to give them some hope now. 15 points adrift. It's very unlikely, but if they can beat Bournemouth, it does give them some hopes. But Bournemouth, that's a really bad result. But anyway, guys, that's it for the video. Thanks very much for watching. To like, share, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, comments down in the comments down below. Remember to follow me on the link in the description for daily football news and subscribe to my channel on the screen right now. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.